There is a ring setting whose official care instructions tell you to have it inspected every 6 to 12 months. Think about what that sentence actually is. It is a maintenance schedule. And a maintenance schedule is a confession, because you only schedule inspections for things that are expected to fail. And there is another setting that nobody inspects, ever, because there is nothing on it that can work loose. So today, 6 ring settings you should never buy, 3 that never lose a stone, and 1 number that explains every single entry on this list. That number is the count of failure points, the places on a setting where wear, impact, or metal fatigue can put your stone on the floor. Some settings on this list have dozens. The winner has none. Let us start with the 6, counting down to the worst. Number 6, the halo. We start with the most popular setting of the last decade, and the reasons to hesitate are hiding in plain sight. A halo is a center stone surrounded by a ring of tiny accent diamonds, and the pitch is brilliant. The small stones amplify the center, the whole head reads 1 or 2 carats bigger than it is, and you get maximum look for the money. Now count the failure points. Every one of those tiny halo stones sits in its own microclaws, beads of metal smaller than a grain of rice. A halo of 20 stones is 40 or 50 tiny contact points, each one wearing against sleeves, towels, and countertops every single day. Microclaws loosen the way full-size prongs do, just faster, because there is less metal doing the job. Losing a halo stone is not a disaster. Replacing one is routine work, but it is a subscription. Owners of halo rings get to know their jeweler. There is a cleaning problem too, because the gap between the halo and the center stone is a dirt trap that dulls the whole head until it is professionally cleaned. And one more thing the trade itself has noticed. The halo dominated engagement rings for roughly a decade, and it is now visibly losing ground to cleaner solitaires and bezels. Fashion is not a reason to avoid a ring you love. But a setting chosen because it was everywhere is a setting that will eventually say exactly when it was bought. If the halo look has you anyway, there is a smarter version of it. A hidden halo, where the ring of small stones sits below the center stone facing outward, paired with a gallery rail, a horizontal band connecting the prongs underneath. The rail does structural work, because if one prong takes a hit, the rail keeps the others aligned. Same extra sparkle, and the small stones live in a protected position instead of on the front line. Number 5, the cluster. Take the halo's problem and multiply it. A cluster setting groups many small stones tightly together, sometimes in a pattern, sometimes packed to imitate one large stone, and it usually sits tall on the hand to pull the illusion off. The appeal is arithmetic, because small diamonds cost radically less per carat than one big one, so a cluster delivers a big glittering head for a fraction of a solitaire's price. Now do the failure point count. 10, 15, 20 stones, each in its own tiny mount, each mount with its own claws, all of it raised high where it catches every doorframe and coat pocket. A cluster is not one piece of jewelry. It is 20 little pieces of jewelry holding a meeting, and any one of them can leave early. And here is the detail people discover at the repair counter. When a cluster loses a stone, the replacement has to match its neighbors in color and size, in a piece where the neighbors have been wearing and dulling together for years. A new bright stone in an old cluster shows. Matching it properly costs real money on a ring that was bought specifically to save money. If you love the look, love it with open eyes. A cluster is the most failure points per dollar on the market. Number 4, Pave on an active hand. Now the entry with an honest argument inside it, because the sources genuinely disagree on this one, and the disagreement is worth hearing. Pave is a band paved with tiny diamonds, each held by miniature beads or claws, so the metal seems to disappear, and the band reads as a continuous ribbon of sparkle. Some jewelers will tell you Pave and channel settings hold stones equally well, and in a display case, they are right. The construction is sound. This is not a badly engineered setting. The other camp says Pave rings need periodic stone replacement as a fact of ownership, and they are describing the same ring after 2 years on a real hand. Both are true, and the variable is your life. On a hand that types, gardens, lifts weights, washes, dishes, and carries boxes, those tiny beads of metal are being sanded and knocked every hour, and tiny beads have no metal to spare. The stones at the edges of the band go first. On a hand with a quieter life, the same ring can go years without losing anything. So this is not never buy Pave. It is never buy Pave for the hand that does everything, and never buy a ring where the Pave runs the full circle of the band, because the stones on the palm side live the hardest life of any diamond in jewelry, and a full eternity of Pave cannot even be resized without surgery. If your ring finger has a job, put the sparkle where the hand does not land. Number 3, thin 4-prong heads in soft gold, now the classic. The most common engagement ring construction of the 20th century, and the single most common way a center stone ends up in a vacuum cleaner. Understand what a prong actually is. It is a thin finger of metal, bent over the edge of the stone, holding it by tension and a tiny lip of contact. 4 of them share the job of holding the most valuable object most people own, and each one is exposed to everything the hand touches. That is 4 failure points, wearing every day in the open. Now add the metal. Yellow and rose gold are soft, and high carat gold is softer still. A prong in soft gold wears visibly thinner year by year, and the tips, the little caps folded over the stone, wear fastest of all, because they are the part that touches the world. Jewelers even have a name for the repair, retipping, and it exists because prong tips wearing away is not a defect. It is the design working as designed until, one day, it does not. This is the setting with the official inspection schedule from the start of this video. Every 6 to 12 months, a jeweler is supposed to check whether your prongs still hold. Between inspections, the test is yours, and we gave it in the 12 signs video. Push the stone gently with a fingernail. Any movement, any rotation, any click, and the ring goes in a box today and to a bench this week. 2 upgrades change this entry completely, and they cost very little. 6 prongs instead of 4, because 6 claws sharing the load means 1 failing claw is an inconvenience instead of a catastrophe, and the most famous solitaire design in history is a 6-prong for exactly that reason. And platinum or a hard white alloy for the head itself, even under a yellow gold band, because the claws are the component doing all the work and they deserve the toughest metal on the ring. Mixed metal heads are standard practice at good benches, and nobody sees the difference from arm's length. To be completely fair, prongs exist for a reason, and it is a good one. They lift the stone into the light and expose almost all of it, which is why nothing sparkles like a prong set diamond. We will come back to that trait at the end. But thin claws in soft metal on a daily hand is a countdown, and everyone in the trade knows it. Number 2, the invisible setting. And now we leave the reasonable trade-offs behind, because the last 2 entries have structural problems, and this one hides its problem inside the stone itself. An invisible setting is exactly what it sounds like. Rows of square stones, usually princess cuts, sitting edge to edge with no visible metal anywhere, a solid, unbroken carpet of diamond. It looks like sorcery, and the market loved it for exactly that reason. Here is how the sorcery works, and this comes straight from the patent documents of the setting systems themselves. A groove is cut into the pavilion of each stone, into the body of the diamond below its widest point. Metal rails run beneath the surface, and the stones slide onto those rails by the grooves. No claws, no bezel, nothing on top, because the connection is carved into the stone. Read that again. To hide the metal, the system cuts into the diamond. Every stone in an invisible setting has been structurally modified, given a machined weak line exactly where impact stress concentrates. Princess cuts already carry vulnerable pointed corners, and this adds a groove to them. And the failure mode is the worst in jewelry. When one stone chips at its groove or works off its rail, the carpet has a hole in it. The neighboring stones lose part of their support, and repairs are specialist work, because ordinary benches do not rebuild rail systems. Plenty of shops will not touch them at all. Maximum beauty, engineered by weakening the stones. That is why it sits at number 2, and only one setting could beat it. Number 1, the tension setting. The most dramatic look in modern jewelry, and the least practical engagement ring ever designed. Every source that ranks settings for security puts this one at the bottom, and once you understand it, you will too. A tension setting holds the stone with nothing. No claws, no rim, no rails. The band is a spring, calibrated so that its 2 open ends press into 2 tiny notches on the stone's girdle, and the diamond floats in midair, gripped purely by the metal's compression. It is genuinely beautiful. It is also a ring whose entire security is one force, in one direction, with no backup. Count the failure points. There is one, and it is the whole ring. Any impact that flexes the band, any drop onto tile, any metal fatigue over years of squeezing, changes the tension, and when the tension changes, there is nothing else holding the stone. Not a claw, not a lip, nothing. Now the ownership facts, and these are the deal breakers. A tension ring cannot be resized, at all, because the spring is calibrated to one exact diameter, and changing the diameter changes the force that is the entire setting. Fingers, unfortunately, change size over decades, and if the stone is ever lost, or the tension ever fails, the fix is frequently not a repair. It is remaking the ring. Sellers themselves say the quiet part out loud on this one. It is recommended for occasional wear, for cocktail rings, for pieces that live in boxes. As a daily engagement ring, it is a sculpture doing a job sculptures should not do. If you love the floating look, there is an honest version. Hybrid tension style settings exist with a hidden claw or a small bezel supporting the stone from beneath, so the float is an illusion and the security is real. Buy the illusion. Never buy the physics. So that is the 6. Now the 3 that never lose a stone, counting up to the king, and watch the failure point number fall as we go. Number 3, the channel setting. For the small stones, the answer is a corridor. A channel setting holds a row of stones between two continuous walls of metal. The stones sit inside grooves cut into the walls, edge to edge, with no claws anywhere and nothing raised above the metal. From the side, the band is a smooth rail with a river of diamond running through it. Look at what that construction removes. No claws to wear thin. No beads to snag a sweater. The vulnerable girdle of every stone is buried inside metal walls, protected from impact on both sides. For wedding bands and for side stones down the shoulders of a ring, this is the secure choice, and every ranking of setting security agrees. 2 honest limits, because this half of the video earns trust by admitting things. A channel set band is difficult to resize more than about half a size, because stretching or shrinking the band distorts the channel that everything depends on. Buy the right size with more care than usual. And if a stone ever does work loose deep in a channel, resetting it without disturbing its neighbors is precision work. Rare problem, fiddly fix. For a center stone, though, a channel cannot help you. For that, the last 2. Number 2, the flush setting. The setting that treats a diamond like a rivet, and the stone is safer for it. In a flush setting, sometimes called a gypsy setting, the jeweler drills a seat directly into the body of the band, drops the stone in, and hammers the surrounding metal over its edge. The stone sits level with the surface. Nothing protrudes. At a glance, the band looks almost smooth, with a small bright eye of diamond looking out of the metal. Now count the failure points. The stone is surrounded by the entire mass of the ring on every side. There are no components, no claws, no walls, no rails, nothing that is thinner than the band itself. An impact to the ring lands on the ring, and the shockwave has to get through the whole shank before it reaches a girdle that is buried in metal. Sources that rank security put flush setting in the top tier for exactly this reason, and it is the standard choice for men's diamond bands, for people who work with their hands, and for anyone who has already lost a stone once and does not intend to repeat the experience. The honest trade. A flush set stone shows only its face, so it gives up the fire that comes from light entering the sides. It reads as a glint, not a blaze. And it is a commitment, because a stone hammered into the body of a band is genuinely difficult to remove and reset later without rebuilding the area around it. You are not renting the metal as stone. You are welding them into one object, which is why it shares this half of the list with a setting that protects almost as completely while showing far more stone. Number 1, the bezel, the king, and the oldest answer in the book. Jewelers were bezel setting stones centuries before anybody invented the prong, and after everything the industry has tried since, the oldest method is still the one that never loses a stone. A bezel is a continuous collar of metal, wrapped around the entire girdle of the stone and burnished over its edge. Not 4 points of contact, 360 degrees of contact. The stone is held everywhere at once, and its most fragile zone, the thin girdle edge where chips happen, spends its whole life inside a metal wall. Run the failure point count one last time. A bezel has no tips to wear through, no beads to shear off, no rails, no spring, no schedule. The collar wears as one piece at the pace of the band itself, which is to say over decades. There is no inspection interval in its care instructions because there is nothing to inspect. This is the setting from the beginning of the video, the one nobody checks, because nothing on it can quietly let go, and the age of the idea is its credential. Bezels are the original setting, the way stones were mounted for most of jewelry's history, on signet rings that survived being worn as tools, pressed into wax, knocked against stone for entire lifetimes. The prong is a 19th century invention built to sell light. The bezel is what jewelry used before jewelry had insurance, and it protects in a second way people forget. A bezel does not just keep the stone in the ring, it keeps the world off the stone. Door frames, gym bars, car doors, tile floors, everything strikes metal first. For softer stones, emeralds, opals, tanzanite, the ones we flagged in the gemstone videos as fragile, a bezel is not just the secure option, it is the responsible one, the honest cost. And there is one. A bezel covers the girdle and a sliver of the crown, so the stone shows slightly less fire than it would in claws, and it can wear visually a touch smaller. Modern thin bezels have shrunk that penalty enormously, and a half bezel, open on 2 sides, splits the difference, light in, edges still guarded. But yes, the last % of sparkle is the price of never checking your ring again. Prongs give you all of the light and a maintenance schedule. A bezel gives you nearly all of the light and none of the schedule. That is the whole trade, in one sentence, and now it is an informed choice instead of a guess. 3 quick rules before the honest note, because they rescue people in exactly these situations. If you already own prongs, you own a calendar. The fingernail test monthly, gently push, feel for any movement or click. A professional check every 6 to 12 months, which most jewelers do free in minutes. And after any hard knock, check that day, not that year. A retip costs a fraction of 1% of what the stone costs. That arithmetic never changes. And put the ring somewhere specific during the risk hours. The gym, the garden, the dishes, the beach. Because a diamond may be the hardest thing in the house, but the claws holding it are soft metal having a hard day. Most lost stones do not fall out during a catastrophe. They fall out during a Tuesday, after months of tiny unnoticed damage. If your stone has corners, protect the corners. A princess cut in ordinary claws is asking for a chipped point. V-shaped prongs that cradle each corner, or a bezel, close that gap. The pointier the stone, the more the setting matters. The same logic runs through every shape. A round brilliant is the most forgiving outline in jewelry. No corners, no points. Happy in anything. An oval or a marquise carries its risk at the ends, which is exactly where a half bezel earns its keep. Metal over the vulnerable tips, light into the open sides. Match the armor to where the stone is actually soft. And if the ring lives on a working hand, choose by biography, not by display case. The display case shows you an object under perfect light for 30 seconds. The setting decides what that object looks like after 10,000 days on a human being. Now the honest note, because this video is not a war on sparkle, prong settings are not a scam. They are the reason a diamond looks like a diamond, lifted into the light, visible from every side, burning at full brightness, and a well-made prong head in a hard alloy, checked on schedule, can hold a stone for a lifetime. Millions do. The 6 settings in the first half are not defective products. They are trades, beauty bought with failure points, and the only real crime is that nobody itemizes the bill at the counter. What this video argues is narrower. Know the number. Count the failure points before you buy, ask what the maintenance schedule is, and if the answer is a schedule you will not keep, buy the setting that does not need one. And for the decision that actually matters, the answer is the one this channel gives every week. A good independent jeweler will tell you honestly which settings come back to their bench and which never do, will show you thin modern bezels that change the old trade-offs, and will build you a prong head and a hard alloy with real meat in the claws if sparkle wins the argument. Ask them one question. Which settings do you see loose stones? Watch how fast they answer. Now tell me in the comments which setting has your stone right now and whether it has ever let one go. The prong that snagged a sweater and bent. The Pave band with one dark gap in the sparkle. The bezel that went 20 years without a thought. I read every one, and the best stories on this channel always come out of the comments. This channel takes no sponsorships and no paid placements. No brand, no designer, and no setting system pays to be praised or buried here. And that independence is the only reason I can tell you that the most secure setting in jewelry is also one of the cheapest, and the most dramatic one is a stone loss with a delay timer. If straight answers like this are why you keep coming back, the join button below makes you a member and keeps these breakdowns honest. Sparkle is what a ring does in the case. Holding on is what it does for the next 40 years. Buy for the 40 years. I will see you in the next one.